Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to this Wellness Festival session. Today's topic really could not be any more relevant in today's current living. We're going to be talking about how you develop and grow a support network. My name is Emma Wilmot and I'm a consultant diabetologist at Derby and I'm also the founder of the Association of British Clinical Diabetologists Diabetes Technology Network. I'm joined today by two fantastic panellists who are going to join in an interactive discussion about support networks. I'd like to start by handing over to Anna Neophytou from Diabetes UK to tell us a bit about herself. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Anna Neophytou. I am the helpline team leader at Diabetes UK, and I've been at Diabetes UK for 6 years. I started off as a helpline advisor and now lead the team to support people living with or affected by diabetes.
Fantastic. And I'd now like to introduce Helen Wills. Helen, over to you to tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Helen Wills. I am mum of a 16-year-old now with type 1 diabetes. My daughter Maddie was diagnosed when she was almost 10. So we're heading into almost 7 years now of diabetes.
Wow. Well, to kick off the conversation, I'd like to start us by reflecting on what a support network is. And I think, Helen, given your experience of having a child with diabetes, from your perspective, what would you consider a support network?
Oh my goodness, just people who get it. That's all I wanted. I remember haranguing the nurses at the hospital for somebody that I could talk to who had been in our shoes. So for me, a support network is people who know what I'm going through.
Yeah, and I think that's especially the case with diabetes. Working as a diabetologist, the amount of things that people need to do from day to day just to manage their diabetes is absolutely huge. Now, Anna, I know that you run the support helpline, and I think particularly over the last year with COVID-19, it's added to the burden of living with diabetes with that additional stress. How have things been at Diabetes UK, and what do you feel the role of a support network's been there?
Yeah, absolutely. The last year has really been, a phenomenal year for us, really, in the amount of contacts that we've received over, since last March. We've had a lot of people wanting extra support, given that they're having to stay at home to either self-isolate or shield. And that means a lot of people have wanted a support network. They've been reaching out to make contact with other people with diabetes or understand how they can still run their local groups virtually. And it's been a big learning curve for everybody, really. And people with diabetes are no different to that, in the sense of needing to learn more about, reaching out to various people, not just friends or family, but actually other professionals, healthcare professionals, or other people living with the condition.
I know we've brought out this issue already, that there's a difference potentially between the support that friends and family can provide versus other people with diabetes. So from both of your perspectives, why is that? Why is it that connection with other people with diabetes is really so important?
Certainly talking to somebody else who's going through the same experiences or same feelings that they are is quite important for an individual, especially people perhaps who have lived with the condition for a long time and don't necessarily want to continue burdening people. They in their own families. We hear that a lot on our helpline, is people are afraid of continuing to reach out to their friends or family who keep hearing the same things over and over again. And as an organisation, we really acknowledge that diabetes is relentless, and that's why people probably will search for peers who are living with the condition, maybe reaching out on our online forum to meet new people and still have that common ground, that common shared experience of living with a condition and what it feels like, you know, to be diagnosed with something that, you know, potentially can be really life-changing.
No, I completely agree. And reflecting on a conversation I had in clinic just the other day, there was one lady that was saying that she just doesn't even want to share the fact that she's got diabetes with a lot of friends and family, because she gets comments like, oh, should you be eating that? What's happening with your sugars? And she thinks, well, I don't even want to start this conversation because people have such limited understanding of diabetes. And I think, you know, certainly from my experience with young adult clinics, I think these challenges are even greater often for younger people with diabetes who are going through that transition into young adulthood. And Helen, I know that you've got a particular expertise in teenagers and teenagers living with diabetes. What do you think the unique challenges are around that sort of stage of life in terms of support networks and people feeling needing to understand where they're coming from?
I think it's a really strange time at that age, actually. It's different for me than it is for her. And I hadn't really thought of what Anna had just said about not wanting to burden family and friends. It took me quite a long time to get to that point. To begin with, I was going to say that I needed online friends, people that I didn't know necessarily, but who I knew had the same issues as us, rather than my kind of in real life friends, as it were, because I felt so alienated from them because they didn't understand at all. And I was almost quite angry. And I think Maddie was too, that they weren't understanding. They were very much, well, it's only diabetes, you know, it could be worse. We got a lot of that. I think Maddie still gets that sometimes. And so she's responded by withdrawing all of her diabetes conversation into herself. She just doesn't talk about it, doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to be a burden, as Anna said, but I hadn't really thought about it that way. I see it from her point of view more as being something that she doesn't want to share with people because she doesn't want them to think that she's different. And I know I have to be careful now as a mum of a teenager with what I say overtly in the public arena, because she doesn't want to be represented by her condition.
Yeah, and I think you bring out a really important point there. You know, I think we probably all recognise the importance of a support network, but actually there are so many people living with diabetes who just aren't in a place where they feel able to reach out to others because they've had so many other negative experiences from people, whether it's friends or family. So how do we support people that don't feel in the place to reach out to support networks, to start to engage and get that support and realise the benefits?
For us, it really needed to come at diagnosis, some sign pointing to places where we could talk to like-minded people who were going through the same thing as us. Because I must have annoyed the heck out of our hospital team, because I was on the phone every other day going, please tell me somebody else is dealing with the same as us. Please, can I speak to someone who's got it? I wanted her to meet somebody who was the same as her, because she just spent all her time saying, why me? Why is it me? It's nobody that I know. We didn't know any, well, we knew one person, but beyond that, none of her real life friends we didn't know. And I think had we had that signposting right from day one, I appreciate that's maybe difficult to give. I think that would have put us into that support system a lot quicker. As it was, we had to find it ourselves.
Yeah, and you know, when I joined in Derby as a consultant, one of the first things that I did was get a couple of engaged people with diabetes who set up their own local Facebook page. And as a team of healthcare professionals in Derby, we just handed out cards about the Facebook page, and it's now got 600 people on there, all living in Derby, all with type 1 diabetes, who can communicate regularly via Facebook. But I have to say, it's been absolutely transformative. I mean, this was before lockdown, but you know, back in the day, people used to come to clinic and sit in the waiting room and not say a word to each other. But prior to lockdown, they recognised each other from the Facebook page and were engaging in conversation. And that was just such a lovely experience to see. So I guess there's potentially a role for local support networks, but certainly Diabetes UK with a national network. And again, be interested to hear your thoughts on a national level, how do you help people to connect? Is it mainly through Facebook, through Diabetes UK, or is it on Twitter? How do people actually communicate directly to each other?
Yeah, we've got a variety of platforms. So we've got our social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We don't get too many people interacting on our YouTube channels, but of course people can liaise that way as well. But probably one of the other biggest platforms is our online community forum. So we have a lot of members who, sign up for free to our online community, and absolutely, are welcomed from the very onset through our volunteer moderators and our forum team, who invite them into this family, really. And it's in the title, the community, and it makes a big difference. And as Helen was saying, it's knowing where to turn to. You've got maybe one or two people that you may know has diabetes, but maybe you're not sure what type of diabetes, and if it's a different type, where does that leave you? You want somebody, I guess, in that moment to relate to be able to go and ask all those questions, and feel supported. It's a minefield. The diagnosis of diabetes can absolutely turn somebody's life upside down, because it's the unknown, and perhaps the media doesn't help with stereotypes or kind of the prejudice around the condition and the different types of diabetes. So it's kind of not wanting to speak to people that you may spend your time with, you might live with. It's reaching out over that online platform, gives that separation and almost a little bit of anonymity, to hide behind this screen until you feel comfortable to reveal more and more of yourself each time. And I guess that's what people prefer, especially as, we're certainly growing in using social media platforms and interacting that way. So it's certainly become a really big way of people meeting each other. Over the last decade, it's really grown to a huge amount.
And I guess today there might be people that are watching this who haven't actively engaged in the networks that are out there. So to both of you, can you think of any examples of how the support networks that are out there have made differences to the lives of individuals that you may be aware of? While you're thinking, I might share a story of one of the people on our Facebook page in Derby. So the Derby got off to the playoffs in Wembley, and this chap had diabetes only for a year, and he was travelling down to Wembley to go and watch football. And he got there and he realised that he'd run out of his rapid-acting mealtime insulin. So he's in a panic. He was phoning 111. They told him to go to the hospital. He was going to miss the game. And then it dawned on him that he had access to the Derby Type 1 Facebook page. So he went on there and said, guys, I'm stuck. I've run out of insulin. I'm at the football game. Can anybody help me? And within 5 minutes, somebody else was there with a spare pen and literally saved the day. And I love that story because, it's those little things that can literally destroy quality of life with diabetes, and that makes such a difference to his experience. That day was a bit important to him, and he was able to just get on with his life. So that's my sort of one example, but I don't know if either of you have an example you'd like to share. Helen?
Yeah, I love that story. That's just the essence of how networking with like-minded people who've got the same as you works. Oh, it's brilliant. I love it. My daughter actually gets, it's a bit of an aside, but she gets excited if we ever see a test strip on a train platform or something like that. I love those stories. Ours is, we have one of our own, in fact, where my daughter wouldn't consider a pump for a very long time. She said that not having a pump made her feel like she didn't have diabetes in between injections, so she didn't want something attached to her the whole time. And we found somebody in a Facebook group that we were part of who had a daughter a similar age, and she invited us along to a roller skating event, and I twisted my daughter's arm. She really didn't want to engage, but we went to this roller skating event, and there was a buffet and there were cakes, and Maddie at that point was quite reluctant to have anything outside of her main meal times because it meant another injection. And she watched this young girl give herself a bolus through a handset, and just pop a piece of Battenberg into her mouth. And her mouth fell open, and she looked at me and was like, if that's what I can do with a pump, then I'm up for talking about it. So that's how our pump journey began. She needed to see somebody who could show her the benefit in her 10-year-old mind of having a pump.
That's absolutely amazing, and I think technology is a bit bewildering, unless people only see healthcare professionals a couple of times a year sometimes, and the technology is moving so fast. And I think having that opportunity to reach out and see the difference it makes to somebody living with diabetes can really transform people's perceptions of the pros and cons of the different technologies available. And Anna, have you got any examples you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, as Helen was talking there, I thought, that's actually a really touching story, an experience to go through, because it's that support happened without the other person knowing, in some ways, the impact that had on Helen's daughter. And I guess, takes me back to early last year, before the pandemic. We had a type 1 event for children, type 1 weekend event, and it was the first time many children actually met other children living with type 1 diabetes. And one of the most inspirational moments of that weekend was a young child, probably about 7 years old, really for the first time injecting for themselves without a parent or a healthcare professional doing that for them. They actually, dosed up the insulin and administered it, and was the excitement and the glee. And because they had that network behind them, they had peers around them who were in the same boat, who knew exactly what this meant. Because, if you think, oh, okay, this kid's injected themselves, it doesn't sound like a big thing, but actually in the diabetes world, this is a massive thing. This is amazing achievement for somebody so young, who is having to learn quite rapidly to be really resilient with their diabetes management. And 7 years old, still having to be a child and still do all the things that they'd love to do, to go out and play, but actually incorporating diabetes as part of that lifestyle is going to be key for their journey. And I guess having that peer support around them, and people, clapping for them and being so happy for them, is an amazing experience to witness from my behalf, certainly.
Yeah, no, and it's also just reflecting on the whole idea of the blood test strip at the train station. I think the other thing, I think wearing the Libre in public has almost become a bit of a badge of honour. I've seen, in fact, I particularly remember going to somewhere where there's a girl dancing on a table in a bikini on holiday, but she had a Libre on her arm, and it's just really amazing to see, it wasn't holding her back at all, not a thought in the world about that Freestyle Libre being on show. And I think that's almost become another way for people to connect. They can see people with the wearable technology, and they start having these conversations in a way that they just wouldn't have before, because before then diabetes was more invisible. And so, some people are definitely getting more confident with it. But coming full circle, for me, the people that I worry about the most are the people that really hate other people knowing they've got diabetes, not wanting to access that support, and how we build them to access. And I guess maybe they come to Diabetes UK, do they? People that aren't comfortable speaking to other people that in their sort of living environment. What steps do you take them through to get them more confident with that network?
Yeah, certainly that there's millions of people who don't want other people to know. We hear from people who don't even tell their partners or their children or anyone in their families or friends. They really keep it hidden, because there is that stigma perhaps attached to being diagnosed with diabetes. And we speak to people with confidence and in confidence. We explain to them that they're not alone, that they can come to us. It's confidential in the sense that they don't have to tell us who they are or where they are. and we're able to give them the support that they need in the moment. So whether that's around practical support living with diabetes, understanding their diet, understanding technology, understanding who can support with certain things. So who is responsible for supporting them with their foot checks or their eye checks, and it's building on that actually all of these healthcare professionals and us as a helpline become their support network. And when they're ready to expand that support network, we can offer them that next stage. Okay, so you like, perhaps online forums, we can signpost you to the forum. You like maybe meeting people face to face, or at the moment virtually, we can signpost to one of our local support groups. And I guess it's about building the options there for people to utilise as and when they would like that. When people are first diagnosed, it can be really overwhelming, and especially if they want to keep this to themselves, they have to do that at their own time to reach out to different networks. But certainly we always try to encourage people to continue calling us and keeping in touch with us, because we can be at the heart of that support for them.
I think you bring out a really important points there about, everybody's different, and trying to find solutions that meet that individual's needs and giving a variety of options is really important. And Helen, just thinking of the journey that you've been on over the years, have you had any sort of unexpected sources of support that others might find useful?
I wouldn't say unexpected, because I went looking for it. I think we've probably established by now that I was on the hunt for support systems right at the beginning. But thinking about what Anna was saying about being not necessarily wanting to be right out there and upfront with it, I found lurking in social media spaces to be an effective way to get support without being engaged in it, if that makes sense. So whilst I'm in a Facebook group, which is incredible, and I do engage a lot in there, I think I've seen a lot of people join that group and one day post and say, I've been here 8 months but never posted. And I think those people gain an awful lot out of just sitting and looking and reading what everyone else is saying, because it does gradually dawn on you that everyone's going through the same problems. You're not abnormal. It's not weird that you can't keep your levels in between a magic set of numbers. But quite covertly, Twitter is a brilliant space, and I hadn't realised that originally. Okay, Twitter's public and whatever you say on there can be seen by anybody, but you can just follow a hashtag, find the hashtag for the diabetes communities, and you can just watch what everybody's saying without having to participate. And that's a remarkable source of information and support from all age groups, actually. I've encouraged Maddie to join Twitter. She has joined Twitter. She hasn't started talking about diabetes yet, but she reads the odd bit.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Twitter has got so much going on. Even as a healthcare professional, I go on there to learn so much more about diabetes. Anything that's new and exciting in the world of diabetes is on there, isn't it? Really, really quite important. What about you, Anna? Any unexpected sources of support that you'd point people to?
I mean, certainly a lot of people don't realise perhaps how helpful their healthcare professional can be. And I guess from our perspective, it's empowering the patient. It's telling them what to go into the appointments with, have, a set of bullet points, that you want to address about your diabetes. Time is limited in these appointments. So, we kind of empower people to really get to the point in those appointments. And I guess the unexpected for us is when we somehow manage to speak to that person again. There is a lot of people staffing the helpline at any given time, so for the same person to come back to the same advisor is unexpected in a sense, because of who it's luck of the draw in some ways who the caller gets through to. but it's unexpected in the sense that they're coming back to just say thank you. And that makes a real difference to us in the sense that it keeps us going, that we're here to do that job of supporting people living with diabetes. And, to have a thank you, it means everything to us, because we've made a difference to that person's life. And often I think what's really great is when they come back and say, we've had that conversation. I've had that conversation with my healthcare professional. They agreed with everything that we discussed, and now I'm getting this support or that support, and it's almost like, wow, that's we've had that backup, that support, that actually what we're giving out to people is working for people, and that's empowering in its own way, but also unexpected in the sense that we don't expect to hear back from people so soon with that thank you and that feedback. But yeah, I think certainly we certainly thrive on supporting people, and that's what we're around for. So if we can join people together through our online communities, our social media platforms, that's certainly a way forward. But also, I guess, recognising it's not for everybody. We support a lot of different age groups. So, we have to cater to all of those age groups as well. And a lot of people prefer, probably who are older adults, may prefer more of the local support groups. So yeah, we there's a variety out there of support, I guess.
Yeah, and we're obviously here together today because we're sort of big advocates of support networks. But I guess to give a more balanced view, I just want to get you both to consider the sort of potential negative sides of support networks. I know that locally, one of the things that some of my people in my clinic have said to me is that one thing they find off-putting is when people are posting nice flat lines of, in-range glucose levels, that they can feel that gets them a bit down because they feel like they're so far away from that. And my feedback to them is, well, actually, if that wasn't a unique experience, it wouldn't be getting posted on Facebook or Twitter. If that was a day in, day out thing that was happening to everybody, it wouldn't be worth posting about. So don't beat yourself up about that. So from both of you, any thoughts or insights into the potential negative impacts and how you help people manage that? Helen, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I've kind of been guilty of that myself, not the flat lines. If I ever post a picture of a flat line, it's to say, I almost don't dare post this because I will jinx it, because it almost always, well, it does always jinxes it.
Yeah.
So I think people need to keep it real in those places. But in the very early days when I was consumed by my daughter's results, used to post a good HbA1c. Given we were in honeymoon, I didn't know. I would post a good HbA1c, and I can now look back and see everyone virtually rolling their eyes at me for that. But with the benefit of 6 or 7 years membership of that group, I now see new people come and do that. And I know that all they're doing is reassuring themselves that they've done a good job. So it has its place. I think the only real potential for negative that people have to be careful of is that you cannot take an online forum or an advocacy group as gospel, because we all know that everybody's diabetes is different and everyone's diabetes will do a different thing on every consecutive day. But people can be very staunch in their opinions and their practices and their recommendations. And I think you need to find good sites that have support networks that have a good admin who can step in and say, okay, that's nice, but we need to remember that this is just personal opinion, and what's worked for one person won't necessarily work for another. And not to take it as medical advice. That's probably my only negative.
Yeah, I think we're all nodding our head there. Anna, any other hints or tips about the potential downsides?
I mean, I think certainly makes me think of maybe the emotional aspect of living with diabetes, and actually how people posting that everything's brilliant. And I think, like Helen said, it has to stay in some ways a little bit realistic. There are hundreds of people who will have great days, but there's also, on the flip side, many people who will be struggling on that day. And if they're seeing maybe, such positive posts and they're not in that place, they can take it the wrong way in some ways, that it wasn't intended to upset anybody. And certainly I think that's kind of the world we live in, isn't it? On social media, things can be interpreted so differently to how they were intended. So certainly from kind of online forums, I think Helen's right that, we do need those sort of moderators or people in charge almost to say, yep, great for you. Just remember, this is, an experience that you're, unique to you today, and it's about kind of almost saying, yeah, well done, guys. You've had a great day. But also on the flip side, who isn't having a great day? Let's talk about that. Let's build on that support network for that emotional aspect of living with diabetes, because it's not going to be perfect all year round. There are going to be ups and downs with emotions as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And again, thinking about our local situation, there's a girl I can particularly think of who describes having days where it really just gets on top of her. And she says having a space that she can go to, whereas other people with diabetes and just saying, I'm having a day where nothing's going according to plan, I hate diabetes, she just says is really refreshing, because she knows that instantly she's going to get messages back saying, I'm with you, I get that, I feel like that, tomorrow will be a better day. And I think that is so, so powerful. Helen, have you had any other experiences similar?
No, just that I've heard that said so many times. Lots of people have said that it's the place to go, isn't it? Because you cannot tell your friends or your family, oh my goodness, diabetes has acted up for me today because this, and then this, and then this, and this is how I feel about it, because they have no idea what you're talking about. You cannot understand diabetes unless you're living very closely with it. So yeah, I've had those days where I've been in tears, and I've gone into my groups and to my people that I know and said, I feel like nothing I do works, and I'm at the end of the line with this, and my soul is destroyed by it. And exactly what you just said, Emma, 50 more people will jump on that thread and say, yeah, look, here's my graph today. I felt like this today. I'm crying today. And then someone else will come and say, let's have a positive thread. And they'll post a picture of their child who's now 25, diagnosed at 6, windsurfing or graduating or climbing a mountain or something. And then everybody cheers up.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I love that, taking it from one extreme to the other, and you need people that have diabetes to be able to support you to move across. And I think, over the course of our discussion, it's come out that, without a doubt, diabetes is a huge emotional roller coaster, and people need some support to get through that. But actually, what that support is, what it looks like, and how it works for that individual varies hugely. And I think it's great that we've got so many different online options. We've got Diabetes UK and other charities. The platforms now for social support are huge. And I think the key is getting the word out there to make people realise that this is a safe place that they can go to get the support going forward. So just bringing the conversation to a close, I'm going to come to both of you and just ask, what's your take-home message from today? If there's one nugget of advice that you'd give to somebody living with diabetes about social support, the support network, and how you access that, etc., what would it be? Anna?
Yeah, I think certainly for people who are perhaps just diagnosed, it is a minefield. And I guess the take-home message is that you're not alone. Do reach out and do that with what you're comfortable in doing. If online forums aren't for you, give Diabetes UK a call. We can decide together what works best for you. even if it means just utilising the helpline at this time until you do feel perhaps confident enough to extend your support network. I think it's important to know that there are hundreds and thousands of people in very similar positions who are living with the condition, and it's that key message that you're not alone, and if you want support, that it is there for you.
Fantastic. And Helen, any nuggets of advice that you'd hand over to people living with diabetes?
Yeah, just talk to someone. It doesn't matter whether it's one person or 3,000 people in a Facebook group or 50,000 people on Twitter. Find someone that you can open up and talk to, because trying to do this by yourself is too hard and it breaks too many people. You just need to be able to confide in someone. And actually, going back to what Anna said, Diabetes UK helpline was where I first started, and I found somebody who was that person on the phone for me one evening, and from there he signposted me to all the places that I'm now so fortunate to be part of. So just find someone to talk to.
Great closing remark there. So unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. Huge thanks to Anna and Helen for joining us and sharing their insights, and I hope that everybody listening today has found this useful. Thank you very much.